On April 26, 2025, a vibrant festival in Vancouver, a day meant for community and celebration, turned into an absolute scene of chaos and tragedy. What happened at Lapu Lapu Day is so much more than just a headline. It's a critical and, frankly, a painful lesson in public safety. So today, we're going to break down the security failures that led to this disaster, and more importantly, what we can all learn from them.
Just take a second to let that sink in. That's how one witness described the moment a vehicle plowed into a crowd. It's a horrifying image, right? And it immediately shows us the devastating stakes when event security goes wrong.
All right, so to really understand how something like this could have been prevented, we first need to get a clear picture of exactly what happened on that day. So picture this. It's the second year for this event. It's a family-friendly festival on the grounds of a school. The atmosphere is just buzzing. You've got food trucks lining the street next to it, drawing these huge, happy crowds. It's a scene any of us would recognize, right? Just a classic local street fair.
The attack happened right at this moment of transition. It was just after 8 p.m. The main festivities were done and crews were starting to take everything down. And it's in this moment, when security is maybe a bit more relaxed, that a black SUV gets onto the street and just accelerates directly into the crowds. And what's really incredible is that the driver wasn't stopped by security, he was stopped by the festival goers themselves.
The result of that attack, 11 people were killed. The victims, they ranged in age from just 5 years old to 65. Dozens more were injured. The human cost was just absolutely devastating.
Now, police were quick to rule out terrorism. This was a lone actor, someone with a known history of mental health issues. But here's the crucial point for what we're talking about today. For the people in that crowd, the driver's motive didn't matter one bit. The vulnerability was the same. A car used as a weapon is a deadly threat, and it honestly doesn't matter who's behind the wheel or why they're doing it.
So now we have the what. But the really critical question is, how? How was this even possible? So let's really unpack the security failures that allowed this to happen. Okay, so the key concept we need to get our heads around is called Hostile Vehicle Mitigation, or HVM. Think of it like a complete security system for public spaces. It's not just about, putting up a flimsy fence. It's a whole toolbox of physical barriers, procedures, and plans designed to stop a vehicle attack before it can even get started. And yet, this was the official thinking for not using those heavy-duty vehicle barricades. The event was seen as low-risk, family-friendly, and there wasn't any specific intelligence pointing to a threat. The goal was to keep that open, welcoming vibe.
And right there, you see the conflict, don't you? On one hand, you have the textbook best practices, like HVM, and on the other, you have the decision that was made on the ground. So where exactly did things fall apart in that gap?
This slide just lays out the cascading failures with painful clarity. First, the barriers were light, if they were even there at all, when best practice says you need heavy, rated barriers. Access control got loose during teardown, which created the exact window of opportunity the attacker exploited. There was basically no standoff distance, giving the driver a straight shot at the crowd. And finally, the official response was too slow, which forced ordinary people to step in and be heroes. You can see how each failure just made the next one worse.
These specific failures, they point to much bigger critical risks. Risks that, honestly, apply to any public event, anywhere in the world. The problem really started with the risk assessment itself. See, a standard assessment might look for specific, known threats, like, is anyone planning an attack? But a better approach, a TVRA, starts by looking at the location itself. It asks a different question. Where are our weak spots? And in this case, the most obvious vulnerability was a street packed with people right next to an open road.
So what was the fundamental flaw in the planning? Well, it really came down to three things. First, it was based on not having any specific intelligence, instead of just dealing with the obvious vulnerability that was right there. Second, it totally underestimated the risk during that teardown phase. And finally, it put the feel of the event ahead of the absolute, fundamental duty to protect the people who were there.
Look, understanding these failures isn't about assigning blame, it's about building a blueprint for the future. So, what are the real, actionable steps we can take to prevent the next tragedy?
The path forward is actually pretty clear. Planners have to start with vulnerability-first assessments. Rated barriers have to be the baseline, not some optional extra. Security protocols have to cover every single phase of an event, especially teardown. And everyone, organizers, security, police, they have to be working together, seamlessly. These are the hard-won lessons from Vancouver.
At the end of the day, this isn't about caging ourselves in.
or stopping these amazing community celebrations. It's just about being smart. Understanding these risks and putting the right measures in place is what allows us to gather and celebrate safely. It's a fundamental duty of care.
And that leaves us with the single most important takeaway from all of this. The question for event planners, and really for all of us who go to these events, has to change. It's no longer enough to ask, is there a specific threat? We must always, from now on, ask, is there a vulnerability? That shift in perspective, that is the key to making sure this never happens again.